dreams, and oftentimes they come true. Like being right here, right now with you. When we got ready to look for a ministry, one of the things that Jane and I did was create a board that says on it, "Some say I'm a dreamer." And on that board, we put things that we desired in the new place that we lived. One of those things was we took a map and we took a little piece of string and we drew this big circle because we wanted to be within 300 miles of our family so that we could get home easily if something happened to our parents. Fort Wayne is 298.5 miles. Y'all came in just under the wire.
We are so glad.
I was thinking about that board as I was thinking about today's lesson. The other thing that I put on that board is that I wanted to be in a thriving community. Like I wanted to be in a community that was part of a community. That ate, broke bread together, that had fun together, that did activities together, that were a presence in the community. And I landed right here, where almost a dozen of us marched in the Pride Fest yesterday, and 4 or 5 of us worked the Pride Fest booth, had a booth at Pride Fest, and we met all kinds of awesome, wonderful people that held a dream like we held. A dream of prosperity. A dream of a world that is thriving, that is full of love and peace and joy and enoughness. And we asked those people to express themselves on this big canvas. So if you came in through the narthex, you got to see that. And I invite you as you leave this morning just to stop by and to read some of the things that people wrote on that. It was truly a beautiful experience to meet lots of different people and to connect in that way. And it began with an image held in mind, an image of how we could connect with people in our community. Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center is built on a dream. A committed group of people who loved unity principles gathered together in prayer and to learn about new thought. And they held a dream of a church, of a building that they could call their own, where people could come and gather and connect with one another and connect with presence. Unity itself was built on the dream of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who saw that there was a better way for people to connect with all that is. And they wanted to bring that to the world and help people be better Christians, better Jews, better Buddhists, to just be better and to know that they are always enough. Today, what images are you holding about how you prosper? We've spent the last 2 months this summer talking about prosperity. Prosperity not meaning just the money in your bank account, but prosperity meaning the friendships that you have, the way you're connected to your family, the things that cause you to thrive, to be enlivened. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, once described the powerful nature of an imagination in this way. He said, imagination gives man the ability to project himself through time and space and rise above all limitation. You see, with imagination, nothing is impossible. Our imagination doesn't know limitation. In fact, it is imagination that fostered Walt Disney, for those of us that are Disney fans, that sent a man to the moon. And it was imagination, this imaging power of prosperity, that led to the creation of Unity Village. We've been studying Catherine Ponder's dynamic laws of prosperity. And one of those laws is the imaging law of prosperity that says that what we hold in our mind, we bring about. What we imagine is what we experience. In 1926, Charles and Myrtle's son, Rickert, who was an architect, had a dream for this beautiful piece of property that bought in Unity Village. It was really just farmland and woods. But he had this great vision of this community that they could build. And so he drew up the plans with all the buildings and all the grounds and everything. Drew it all out, and they broke ground in 1926. By 1929, they had erected the Unity Towers, big tower that still sits on the property, and the building that houses Silent Unity, known as the Silent Unity Building, where all the prayer associates met and prayed with people from around the world. And then the Depression hit. And when the Depression hit, fear gripped the country. And there weren't any resources to build any more buildings. And you know, it would have been easy for all of the Fillmores to go into a state of despair and go, oh, well, God must not want us to do this. And gosh, I guess we're just going to have to go do something else. We're just going to pack up and leave now. But they didn't. Because they knew that there was only one source for their abundance. And that source was God. And so Rickert Fillmore, during that time, although they didn't have the funds to build, they had the funds to plant. And so he planted all the trees and the rose gardens and the shrubs and everything, all the gardens, all the beautiful gardens in Unity Village. He built them as though the buildings were standing there. He held the image of they lined some of the sidewalks, even though the sidewalks led really nowhere. But in Rickert's mind, they led to beautiful buildings. And he once told people that were attending the Unity People's Conference, he once told them that during that 11-year period, every day he would go up to his office, which was in the tower, and he would look out the windows at the ground, and he would go, oh, there's the administration building. And he would imagine in great detail what that building looked like. The windows, the doors, the beautiful archways, the architectural structure, the red tiled roofs. And he would do that every day that he was there. He would imagine each building as it was being built, and each building in its completion. And he would imagine all of the people that would come to visit Unity Village that would have their spirits renewed. For those of us who have been to Unity Village, which some of us call the Holy Grail, we know that those grounds stand today as evidence of the imaging law of prosperity, because they are indeed gorgeous. And in 11 years, they began to build again. And throughout the years, many of us have held an image of those buildings being restored and renewed. And some of us spend time, Ron Bonar, Andrea, many of us, Di and I, have all been sharing, have been on those grounds and have painted and have rebuilt walls. And we have restored, continue to restore those grounds to the beauty that they once were, because we hold an image in our imagination of how that can impact the generations that come after us. So the imaging law is active and at work in us all the time. I know there's someone out there right now going, I don't have any imagination. I can't imagine anything. I can't even see what I'm going to have for supper tonight, Glenda. Like, really? You want me to imagine something? You doubters, you. This is what Catherine Ponder in the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity has for you. We are constantly making mental images, whether we want to or not, because the mind thinks through mental pictures. It is the natural action of the mind. It's the natural action you can't avoid it. So if you're worried about those test results, your mind is already creating a picture of what that experience is going to be. By the same token, if you're wondering what's next in your mind, what's next in your life, your mind is already starting to create the images of what that is. If you're excited about going on vacation, your mind doesn't see the words, I'm going to Niagara Falls, I'm going to Canada, I'm going to Italy. Your mind sees the pictures of what that experience is going to be. And so the experience of being right here, right now, is an outpicturing of the image you held this morning when you got up and got dressed. So whatever you walk away from, know that you dreamt it first, not me. I take no responsibility. You held the image in your mind first. And so then how do we rein that in and use that to be prosperous? How do we use our imagination to prosper? The first thing we have to do is we have to activate the law that we talked about last week, the law of command. When we talked about the prosperity law of command, we talked about taking authority over, right? Taking control of. So just as we command with our affirmations, just as we command our thinking, we have to command our imagination. You see, the problem is most of us let our imaginations run wild, right? Sometimes that can be wild in a joyful 2-year-old playing in the sprinkler way. And sometimes that can be a 2-year-old temper tantrum, right? Everything that's going to go wrong, that's gone wrong, and how my life is so horrible, right? So we have to rein that imagination in instead of letting it go wild. We have to take command of our imagination and begin to train it like we do our children, our dogs, to train it to hold the correct image. To hold the correct image. I think about, we lost our dog a couple of weeks, almost a month ago now. And so I miss him terribly when we're by ourselves, and I think about funny things. And I was thinking about, I had kind of a sore throat yesterday, and I thought, well, how would you teach a dog if you couldn't speak? I have no idea where that thought came from. But I thought probably the same way you teach a dog anyway, right? The dog sits, and you go, oh, sit! And you give it a little treat, and you go, yay! And then the next time, you go like this, and it sits, and you give it a little treat. Our imagination is the same. It occurred to me, our imagination is the same way. We show it a picture. This is what I want you to hold in your mind. And we elicit that good feeling about that picture. We train our imagination to go in the direction that we want it to go in. So one of the ways that Catherine Ponder taught the law of image actually came from an engineer who was one of her very first students in one of her very first prosperity classes. And he came up with this idea called the Wheel of Fortune. And so it was a way to look at your life and to think about the things that you desire. Now, Catherine reminds us that our mind thinks in images. And so it's way more powerful to use pictures. And by the way, that reminds me, one of the things that I put on my board for us was that I wanted access to waterways. Now, I was thinking ocean. I just want you to know that my suitcase was packed and I was planning on a ministry on the beach. Okay? I had failed to activate the law of command. And when I looked back later, I didn't even put the right picture on the board. I put a picture of water. I didn't bother to look at what kind of water. That's how I ended up here. Which I'm very blessed I didn't end up by the ocean. So the law of command says you have to be really specific, right? So if you put a river on your board, I'm going to guarantee you're going to end up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Right? If you want the ocean, you better put the ocean, because the universe is going to give you what you put on the board. So we're going to practice that today. The usher, Dina, is coming through graciously and handing out wheels of fortune. So you're going to need a pen. And if you don't have a pen, we have a whole cup of pens back on the narthex. And if you raise your hand, Andrea will bring you a pen if you don't have one in your pew. So everybody got a pen? All right. So before we begin our Wheel of Fortune, we're going to activate that law of command, because I don't want any of you to get a lake instead of an ocean. So I want you to repeat after me this affirmation. Divine intelligence is in charge of my life. Divine intelligence is in charge of my life. I am now open, receptive, and obedient. I am now open, receptive, and obedient to its rich instruction and guidance. To its rich instruction and guidance. All right, so we're going to start with family. So you'll see on your circle, there you go. You'll see in your circle, Simon needs one over here. Oh, got a couple more folks. So I will wait until everyone gets a piece of these. Thank you, Dina, for being Vanna. All right. So I want you to think of your family. And I want you to think about what it is that you desire in your family life. Do you want everybody to get along better? Do you want to spend more time with each other? Do you want there to be more love, more harmony? So we don't have magazines today because I didn't want my janitor to have the come aparts when he came to church, when he came to clean on Tuesday. So we're going to use words. So just take a moment and tune in to what you desire in your closest relationships. And just write some words down in that circle that has family on it. What would you like to do with your family? How would you like your family to interact? Sherry wants the Bahamas to become within driving distance.
I started with vacation.
All right. I want you to affirm with me. We're going to close out. We're going to close this with an affirmation. This is what Catherine taught. Is once you complete that circle, then you write an affirmation to help affirm those things to become true. So affirm with me. Divine order is now established and maintained.
Divine order is now established and maintained.
Harmony reigns supreme.
Harmony reigns supreme.
So the next area is vocation. So some of you are retired, and so you're thinking you don't have a job, but everyone has something to contribute. And so when you think of vocation, I want you to think about how do you contribute to your community, to your church, to your family? How do you contribute to the world? And so when you look at vocation, what is your heart's desire? Is it to give more? Is it to impact people's lives? What is your heart's desire about how you want to contribute? And write those things down. Stephanie contributes with a big smile on her face. All right. So think of this as a blueprint that you'll be able to work on later. So this is an affirmation that comes out of dynamic laws of prosperity. And the one thing I can say about Catherine Ponder is she can write some really long affirmations. We're going to affirm this together. I am now activated by divine love. I am now activated by divine love. And guided by divine power. And guided by divine power. The divine plan for my life now takes shape. The divine plan for my life now takes shape. Indefinite concrete experiences. Indefinite concrete experiences leading to perfect health, happiness, success, and prosperity. Leading to perfect health, happiness, success, and prosperity. See, I couldn't even keep up. All right, so the next category is the one that Sherry started with, so clearly it's her favorite. That's recreation/social. So think about who are the people that you want to spend time with. What do you want to do with those people? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do to have fun in your life? We were put here to play in the universe, not to toil and toil, right? We were put here to experience joy. So what are the things that bring you joy, that you want more of? Put those down. All right, affirm with me. I give thanks for divinely planned activities. I give thanks for divinely planned activities. With divinely planned conditions. With divinely planned conditions. And manifest supply that brings me joy. And manifest supply that brings me joy. And the last area is spiritual. So we have to take care of our spiritual life, right? If you want to prosper, you have to stay plugged in and connected. It's really the only way to thrive. So think about, what is it that feeds your spirit? there a good book you've been wanting to read? Do you want to spend more time in meditation? Do you want a deeper understanding? What is it that will feed you, that will help your spirit, your consciousness to thrive? Write a few words down. All right, our last affirmation. I am grateful that faith abides in my heart. I am grateful that faith abides in my heart. And I am divinely guided to those people, places, and activities. And I am divinely guided to those people, places, and activities that uplift my spirit and support my unfoldment. That uplift my spirit and support my unfoldment. All right. So as we prepare to close the lesson and move into meditation, I want you to keep these nearby you, because we're going to use them in our meditation to anchor our heart's desires even deeper. And as we close the lesson up, I want to share with you a passage from Catherine Ponder's book, Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. It is true that man becomes what he imagines, and that man's continuous imagination is sufficient to remold or create anything. But don't just take my word for it. Instead, join me and many others who are discovering that the imaging power of prosperity is one of the most delightful and powerful laws of all. Go forth and prosper in infinite love and gratitude.